Okay, so when you think of Vampirella, you probably picture the fangs, the iconic red outfit, right? But what if I told you the most interesting thing about her isn't any of that? Today, we're digging into a story that takes her entire history and turns it into, well, a brutal psychological war zone. It's wild. No, seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. What if everything you thought you knew about yourself, your childhood, your family, your biggest triumphs, your deepest scars, was just a fabrication, planted in your head by someone you trusted? How would you even begin to figure out who you are?
Well, for Vampirella, that's not some late night philosophical question. It is her reality. It's a curse. This gnawing doubt is at the very core of her existence. And worse, it was put there on purpose, used as a weapon against her by the one person who was supposed to protect her.
And this whole mess, this identity crisis on a cosmic scale, it actually has a name in her story. They call it the Vampirella problem. So what does that mean? Well, it means she's got these two completely different stories fighting for control inside her head. In one version, she's this tragic alien, the last survivor of a dying planet. In the other, she's the literal daughter of Lilith, the demon from the very beginning of Judeo-Christian lore. So which one is true? The terrifying part is they both are, or at least they feel true. Both memories were deliberately jammed into her mind to cause as much chaos as possible. And here it is, laid out. The Vampirella problem. It's not just amnesia. It's so much worse. It's being force-fed multiple conflicting pasts. That phrase, existential nausea, that's perfect. It's that gut-wrenching feeling that you're a complete fraud, that your entire life is just a story someone else wrote for you. You literally have no solid ground to stand on. Okay, so to really get how this all started, we've got to go back to her home, to a place called Drakulon, or at least what everyone thought was her home. For years, decades, this was the story. Drakulon, a dying planet, rivers of blood, far across the galaxy. A classic sci-fi origin, right? The last of her kind escaping to Earth. Well, turns out that was just another layer of the lie. The real story is way weirder and a lot closer to home than you'd ever guess. And boom, here's the twist that changes everything. Drakulon was never some far-flung planet. It's an alternate version of our own moon. Yeah, our moon. It exists in this whole other dimension called Arcadia. So suddenly, her origin story isn't happening light years away. It's right there, in our celestial backyard. This is a game changer. So what exactly is this place, Arcadia? Think of it less like a place and more like a metaphysical battleground, a dreamscape. It's a twilight dimension that mirrors our moon, filled with a dense, fevered forest, a place where the rules of physics and even theology just don't really apply. And this weird dying dimension, this was the personal kingdom of Vampirella's mother, Lilith. It was the stage she built to orchestrate her daughter's entire life. This whole setup brings us to the core conflict, which is really a battle of philosophies played out between two key figures, the mother who wrote all the lies and a mentor who showed her how to read between the lines. It's the writer versus the interpreter. And at the center of all this chaos is her mother, Lilith, the architect of confusion. What a title, right? She's not just some evil villain, she's this primordial manipulator. And she does something kind of brilliant in a twisted way. You know how in comics they retcon things, change past events to fit a new story? Well, Lilith takes that concept and turns it into an actual weapon of psychological torture against her own daughter. All just to control her. This really breaks it down perfectly. You've got Lilith, the writer, on one side. Her whole deal is imposing fake stories through magic to manipulate and control Vampirella, which, just creates this deep, profound resentment. Then you have Sophia, the interpreter. She doesn't come in and say, here's the real story. No, her goal is to give Vampirella the tools to interpret all the chaos that's already there. It's not about control, it's about empowerment. It's about teaching her how to find freedom in the mess. So, okay, she's armed with this totally new way of looking at things thanks to Sophia. How does she break out of this mental prison? Well, she realizes something huge. If her life is just a story someone else wrote, then the only way out is to snatch the pen and become the author. And this isn't an overnight thing. It's a whole philosophical journey. It starts with her just being trapped, right? Stuck reacting to her mother's lies with anger and resentment.
But then she learns to embrace what's called a Dionysian spirit. It's this idea of accepting that chaos and contradiction aren't problems to be solved, they're just part of reality. Once she accepts that, she can finally move past being a victim and take that huge final step. And that final step is becoming what the philosopher Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the overhuman. This is the absolute key to the whole thing. It means you stop looking for answers outside yourself. You reject all the values, all the stories, all the meanings that other people have tried to force on you, and you find the strength to create your own meaning from the ground up. You stop being a character in someone else's play, and you become the writer, director, and star of your own. And this is her ultimate victory. She achieves this incredible state of being called the self-begotten state. Instead of letting her contradictory pasts tear her apart, she does the opposite. She weaponizes them. She says, okay, I remember being an alien, and I remember being a demon. Fine, I'm both. She claims it all, and by doing that, she basically becomes immune. Nobody can mess with her past again because she owns every single chaotic piece of it.
I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? She writes her own gospel of power and blood, rising clear from the beautiful, chaotic mud. She doesn't find some neat and tidy truth. She rises out of the mud. She takes all that chaos and confusion and uses it as the foundation for her own power, her own meaning. So that really brings us back to the beginning. Vampirella's journey is this incredible metaphor for taking control of your own narrative. It takes her from being a victim of her story to being its absolute master. And it leaves us with a pretty powerful question, one I want you to really think about. If you could wipe the slate clean and write your own truth, free from what anyone else thinks or expects, what story would you write?